class. Okay, so it's been 2 weeks of some good content coming out there. I appreciate your feedback. Everybody sending messages via WhatsApp, via emails, those commenting on the videos. I really, really, really appreciate what support you're giving to the channel. So today we're jumping on something that is trending. Some of the people that follow the channel did make some recommendations on a trending issue concerning emojis. So I would want to touch on that briefly on your 20 minutes of knowledge sharing, the best you can get on a channel. So welcome to today's session. For those who don't know, my name is Desmond Israel. I'm a lawyer. I'm a data privacy practitioner, also into information security. I'm a technology policy researcher and analyst as well, and a founder of Information Security Architects. For the purposes of legal disclaimer, we do not intend to provide legal advice. All content provided here are for educational purposes. However, if you wish to get legal advice, we could do that in an appropriate forum. So today we're asking ourselves, what could be worse? The legal effect for wordless communication. So we are looking at emojis, emoticons, and memes. So yes, I'm signposting you as usual. We would look at emojis, emoticons, and memes. What are they? We get familiar with them, and then we look at the legal effect. I will try to take you through a walk in some of the context in which these plays, and also try to point you to some US cases, United States cases, which discusses the issues from different perspectives. Of course, it's a growing jurisprudence on the matter, but the US has quite a number of cases that you can leverage on since 2004. And then finally, the wake up call. Yeah. So, we start off with getting familiar with them. So emojis are usually digital icons, okay, which they kind of like express emotions, feelings, and ideas, concepts in electronic format. So when you pick your phone, whether it's an Android, whether it's iPhone, you would see that you have these sessions for emojis where you are able to send these tiny, tiny little icons out there. But before emojis were emoticons, we call them ASCII hearts, ASCII arts. So we use the keyboard to generate facial expressions, to generate some sort of art. It is out of these that emojis actually evolved. So emoticons, or some people call them emotion icons, emoticons, they also express similar, but they are just textual representations, because you just use the special characters on the keyboard to do that, and they indeed convey emotion. So you can have for a happy face, you can have for a sad face, you can throw in a kiss, you can throw in a wink, you can throw in a cry. And then it goes on and on and on and on. And so that's actually the difference between the emoji and then the emoticon. So emoticons are textual representations, and emojis are digital icons or images. And of course, we have memes, as can see on your screen now. I have one that says, I have an intention to create legal relationship, if you know what I mean. And then you have Mr. Bean's face on it. So memes have been determined to be cultural elements. Okay, most of these definitions are coming up as things go. People would say Gen Z definitions, but yeah, it is what it is. We live with them, and so we need to know what they are. And so they are actually termed as cultural elements. So they may include images of people, they may include videos, phrases, or concepts. Some of the concepts people have used is what they call stickers. Okay, and these stickers have some of these expressions on them. Some of them are also just images that are sent across, and then some of them have been gifted into small videos that is used to express the same give the same expression in communication. And usually when they will come out, they spread out like rapidly across the internet, and it becomes something like comes more like an adaptive thing. Everybody jumps on it and starts to use it. Largely it comes out as humorous and a satire, but as you are about to see, it's not always the case that we end up with just the humor and the satire. So now that we've appreciated the whole context of the work of the definitions or getting familiar with emojis, emoticons, and memes, I think we can jump on to the legal effect of memes as well. So yes, we will look at legal effect from different points. For now, we're going to study the consequences because of the inherent complexities and ambiguities when it comes to communicating with these wordless communication, new means of wordless communication, i.e., the emojis, the emoticons, the memes. One thing that can happen is contractual ambiguity, where two parties are deemed to be engaging, and then the other things that, well, he has a contract formed on an electronic platform with an emoji as like an affirmation, and the other is at cross purpose, thinking that no, I just thumbs it up to show that I have seen it and not that I'm accepting it. In a place like Ghana, we have an Electronic Transactions Act, right, which spells out clearly that if two parties chooses a means of communication, electronically communicating, so whether it's an email, whether it's a WhatsApp platform, whether it's on the Facebook Messenger, whether it's on Telegram, when the message is sent, right, when the message is sent and the sender can confirm that the message has been sent, right, then it means that you have established some sort of contractual obligations for the purposes of that communication. All right. So a typical example would be if I send you a message, one tick means it's sent, right? On WhatsApp. A double tick means you've seen it, a double tick means you've received it, and then the blue tick means you've seen it. Now, for those who usually hide behind not wanting to show whether they are online or whether they've had read receipts, usually you will not get the blue showing. But in under the Ghanaian law, which I'm using as a context to explain something to you guys, the blue ticking is not necessary. What is necessary is the double tick, which shows that you have received it, right? So it's sent, one tick, double tick, you've received it. Whatever happens between the conduits, the law doesn't really care much. What the law wants to establish is that the sender can show that you have received it and is enough to justify it. So when you apply a thumbs up emoticon, for instance, in addition to a document that has been sent to you, a very not straightforward, because I have to explain a few things to you, but then just on the context which I've explained with the Electronic Transactions Act of Ghana, that additional thumbs up would be construed to actually mean an additional acceptance or affirmation, because the truth of the matter is that whatever document has been sent to you, it's deemed sent. So if it was an offer being made to you, or if it was an acceptance of a contract being made to you, once the double tick comes on your WhatsApp, it is received, and that can actually form the contract if it is one for acceptance, and that can actually also form a proper offer if it's just an offer that you are making and is yet to be accepted. But let's look, because we're looking at a more nuanced legal effect, let's look at it from the point of view that this is an acceptance of a contract. The double tick means that the contract has been accepted, so your thumbs up that you added to it is just merely affirming it. So that's how this contractual ambiguity thing works when it comes to the use of emojis and emoticons. You need to be careful what you are actually opening yourself to. And then we have defamation. Now, under the defamation, the consequence of a defamation is usually when you use certain emojis or emoticons or memes within a certain context, certain communication, and it turns out to actually, bring the image or the name of the other party or the victim into disrepute. Essentially, it's just the way defamation is defined in law. You say something that is defamatory of the person, and then you say it, such that it goes between the two of you, and a third party gets to hear of it. So whether it's even a single person, whether it's multiple persons, whether it's in a WhatsApp group, then it means that you've now communicated it beyond beyond just the two of you, and that's deemed what they call publication. And it means that if indeed it is proven that the statement or the communication is defamatory, you would be liable for defamation. So the way you play with emojis and emoticons and memes can actually lead to defamation. And then in some cases, it could also bring harassment and cyberbullying. It could be termed harassment and cyberbullying. I have some case law examples I'll share with you as we go on. But depending on how you use them, and depending on how it plays out in the context of your communication, it could actually mean harassment, whether it's some sort of sexual harassment without touch, but then expressive. It could actually amount to that cyberbullying as well. Then, especially with memes, you could also have copyright infringements, especially when you are using images that have been copyrighted, or statements or brand words or cliches that have been copyrighted. The use of memes in that context as a wordless communication could actually lead to copyright infringement. And then you have discrimination and hate speech. I give you a very random example. Now, when we send in some of these smile face emojis to our friends, um, as blacks, we usually would send one with a black face and it would not mean anything. And this is just in context. But we could have a situation where the way the cultural tension around that communication, if it turns out that this black emoji was sent by another person, say a white person to a black person, depending on the cultural tension there, that could actually amount to discrimination, right? So you need to be careful within the context in which you use it. And that is what is really important. The emojis by themselves do not really create problems, legal problems, but for the context in which it is used, which I would explain to you in a subsequent slide. Again, another legal effect of it could be misrepresentation. Misrepresentation could apply in many ways. If it's fraudulent misrepresentation, we could have it both in contract and in criminal matters. And then you could have misrepresentation merely just in contract as well. Okay, so now let's look at the legal effect, but then this time how the liabilities come to play. How is the liability going to arise out of something that is merely a playful, someone would say, image? Well, for starters, because we are dealing with legal effect, I would like you to understand that these would have to be matter of evidence. Okay, it must be admitted into what we call the record. My lawyer friends or my legal brain friends on this call or on this session definitely would understand that. But if you're a non-lawyer, don't worry. It's all the materials, the facts, the evidence, everything put together for which the court makes a determination from is what we call the record. So when you are in court and you have a case, everything concerning the case forms part of the record. Okay, and that is why in most cases lawyers will insist that they are captured on the record, because you don't want to say something in jest. If you intend it to be in jest, you can just say that this is not, you did not say this to form part of the record. But ordinarily, things that are said within the the court proceedings are actually matters that forms part of the record. So the emojis, the emoticons, and the memes must form part of the record. Okay, and before it is for the purposes of evidence, before it is admitted into the record, it must have what we call probative value. Probative value. Forgive, there's a typo in the text. I'm sure it came out of the preparation, but that's it. Probative value. Okay, and probative value means it's really, really connected to the case and it can help in the determination of the matter. And then it needs to be subjected to interpretation. Interpretation will look at the surrounding circumstances, which would include jurisdiction, the intended meaning of the message for which the emoji, the emoticon, or the meme forms part of, the accompanying text that is going with. Like we know from legal interpretation, they said that the words take the meaning from the color of other words, right? So when I say something, it might not really mean anything much unless we look at the surrounding words which comes with it, and then we will know whether I was saying it in a joyful tone, or I was saying it in an angry tone. And then there's a technical part of interpretation which came specifically with this new age of wordless communication. And before I touch that, I think I skipped subculture, community, group, or demography. It matters because what an old early person would presume to be the meaning of an emoticon or emoji, or a meme, would not be the same for the demography of a 16-year-old who is like heavily Gen Z, and they have a certain interpretation they place on some of these things. And also in subculture and in community base or in a group chat, there could be meanings ascribed to certain emojis or emoticons that are used, and therefore it would come handy, especially when people need evidence to show that within this context, this is what a particular emoji or a particular emoticon or meme would mean. And then you have the technical part I wanted to touch on, which is what we call the competing platform. Okay. Now, even though there is a Unicode consortium that actually sets the standards for this, it's been proven that each company also designed these for their own platform and has certain meanings to it and make certain modifications, right? So in the case of Apple, for instance, they changed the gun emoticon, sorry, the gun emoji, sorry, to a toy gun emoji. And it means something to them because they did not want to, pursue that connotation of violence when communicating with those platforms, right? So it would not be the same on another platform where the gun emoji is actually a gun and not a toy pistol. And then on that note, I think we should look at the next legal effect, which is actually court decisions on the matter. Interesting, right? Okay, so this is where we get a little bit of the bite. We're entering into the labyrinth of emojis and court decisions. So let's start with 2014, a case called Graham and Does. It actually happened this decision is from the Michigan Court of Appeals, and now they ruled that the stinging out tongue emoji, which you see on your screen now, right, within the surrounding circumstances of a communication between a party, was just a mere joke and could not amount to defamation. So in that case, the words which were deemed to which had been sued for the purposes of defamation did not amount to defamation because the accompanying emoji and the communication in its entirety showed that it's just a joke. Let's go on to Commonwealth Indemnity, 2019 case happening in the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. In this case, it's a criminal matter. The court upheld stalking and harassment, right? Because of the accompanying social media post, which demonstrated a criminal intent of the defendant. So while the defendant was trying to push the court to accept the fact that his communication was unjust and it was not something that was meant to have a criminal intention, the court says no, hold it there. We can see from the rest of your communication that you had a criminal intent. So these smiley we have there can just be construed as you being sarcastic whilst going forward with your criminal intention. And then we have the Krazak v. State, a 2019 case as well, happening in Texas Appellate Court. In this case, there's another conviction of the defendant for manslaughter, and this was according to the evidence before the court, which included a frown face emoji, like you can see on the screen. So the series of text messages between the defendant and the victim, right, with the frown face, actually established as part of the evidence that the defendant is guilty of manslaughter. Let's look at some additional cases. State versus this battle 2019, that happened that decision was in the Supreme Court of Ohio. Incident happened in Ohio. You have a court convicting a defendant for telecommunications harassment for unwanted messages that is sent, and these unwanted messages included the rodent emoji, and the rodent emoji has also been construed in certain, uh, parlance or certain euphemism to mean that you are a disloyal person. Then we have the one that involved the pill emoji, a case which is Commonwealth v. Foster 2019, decision from the Superior Court of Pennsylvania. In this case, the gentleman was on probation for drug-related conviction, and his probation officer had suspicion because this gentleman posted photographs depicting guns and drugs, and then he added a pill. Three pills actually for the emoji. I don't know what he was thinking. So the three pills together with these images actually shows that he's getting himself into what he was not supposed to be involved in already, drugs. Then the final one that I would present to you in terms of a legal effect from court decisions is JSV Grand Island Public Schools 2019, a Supreme Court of Nebraska decision, which actually led evidence was determined. There was a fire emoji posted by a student, and that amongst the surrounding circumstances showed that violence did happen in the school the next day. And so you could see from the legal effect, the cases, the way these things are determined, that it is pretty much clear, right, that there would be a need for an interpretation of what an emoji is before a decision can be made. And that also should tell you that these decisions could vary from place to place. So it might go well in Canada for the court to make a decision from the surrounding circumstances, the prevailing legal regime, that a contract is made because a thumbs up is added on a communication between parties. It might not be the same in, say, China, right? And so you need to look at the surrounding circumstances, the legal regime involved. And before we look at the wake up call, I think I would like to go back briefly and then touch on a few things here. So the emojis here, the legal effect of some of these emojis here have been covered in a few places. For instance, evidence shows that in the Middle East, if you use a thumbs up emoji, it's likely to be offensive or vulgar. As in many countries in the Middle East, it is not the same in, say, Ghana or the United States or Canada, right? But it definitely has a different meaning in the Middle East, in some countries in the Middle East. The smiley face in China is seen as sarcasm. If you use it, it actually means you're being sarcastic. It might mean cool or okay in a different setting, like maybe Cote d'Ivoire, like maybe Senegal, like Ghana, right? Like South Africa. And then also, if you put it in certain areas of context, so for instance, if you're dealing with sex trafficking, for instance, right? The crown, whilst would easily pass for just the king or the authority in regular communication between parties, if it's a sex trafficking forensics or a sex trafficking matter being determined, the crown itself here would actually amount to a pimp if it's found in a communication, within the sex trafficking setting. Then a heel together with money attached to it would actually mean what? A prostitute. Or a heel with a bag of money could actually also mean prostitute. So it is important to look at some of these things. While the smoking nose also could mean being angry in certain contexts, it's been seen in another context to also mean triumph. So clearly, emojis do not cut one side. depending on the context, depending on the communication involved, depending on the surrounding legal regime, depending on the issues, depending on the platform that we are looking at, they could have legal consequences. And on that note, we would wrap up with a wake up call. The wake up call is pretty simple. You communicate clearly and don't assume anything at all. You understand that wordless communication in the context in which it is offered, especially if you intend to go on a litigation route with them, you know. And then finally, it is also important to state that electronic communications and electronic transactions are potentially enforceable in so many jurisdictions, including Ghana and the United States. And then you must be intentional about it. And now that we know what this means, we would wrap up here on your top 20 minutes of knowledge sharing. And I hope you did grab something from that. You can connect with me on the um, uh, contacts that is shared on the screen. And please do share your views. Please do comment, do recommend the platform. Do subscribe and ask your colleagues to subscribe. We'll bring you the next top content the next time we see you, and you can be rest assured we will deliver. Thank you so much. It's been TechLawConverge, bridging the gap and making friends.